Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. Good evening or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. A warm welcome from the Wholesale and Retail Seta. Thank you for joining us in our 2023 annual general meeting. We've just started 13 minutes after the time. We hope we're going to be able to catch up so that we can release those who need to drive back home early enough. So this meeting is held today as a hybrid meeting. So we have people joining us physically, and we also have got people that are joining us virtually. And I'd like to welcome everyone, including those people who are joining us virtually. Following the meetings that we've been hosting in various provinces, Western Cape, KZN, Eastern Cape, and the last one was in Northern Cape, Kimberley, we are pleased to be hosting the 2023 AGM here in Gauteng as part of Wholesale and Retail Seta's commitment to engage with stakeholders across all the provinces. We are committed also in prioritizing all stakeholders from various backgrounds and geographical locations as our key partners in skills development mandate. The AGM is actually the stakeholders meeting as required by the Wholesale and Retail Seta's constitution, whose purpose is stipulated under section 15(1)(d), which prescribes that the AGM must, among other issues, consider the following: the annual financial statements of the Accounting Authority, an annual report on the Accounting Authority's affairs, the report of the Auditor General on the Accounting Authority, and then acceptance for recommendation to the Director General in the Office of the Executive Authority to present also our annual budget and the business plan, which is our strategic plan. So this is the business of the day. So the AGM will be considering these reports I've just mentioned for the year that ended 31 March 2023. The AGM will also outline strategic priorities for the succeeding financial year and provide a platform for the Wholesale and Retail Seta to highlight its achievements that have been made to stimulate growth in the wholesale and retail sector through skills development. The AGM gives an opportunity for stakeholders to participate in the resolutions around the adoption of the statutory reports to be presented today. As a requirement of the Constitution, the constitutionality of the meeting must be confirmed. Members of the board representing business, labor, and community must indicate their presence to confirm a quorum of the meeting. So, as an introduction, this board took office to provide strategic and oversight leadership of the Wholesale and Retail Seta on 1 April 2020 for a 5-year period as appointed by the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande. So I will be calling the board members. I believe that their pictures will also be projected on screen. So the first board member is Ms. Zinhle Tikwe. She can also stand up if she's here, or we can project on the screen. Management. Okay. I can't see the pictures. We're supposed to have pictures. Who is projecting the pictures for the members? it's important because virtually there are people also joining us virtually that they know who our board members are. It's very, very important. There they are. So I'm just going to call the names, and you can see them lined up there. So Zinhle Tikwe, Sibusiso Busane, Thandeka Ntshangase, Themba Mthembu, Mzimaseki Slemandlela, Lerato Madela, David Makua, Lucas Ramatlodi, Ross Reiners, Margaret Bango, Nonkululeko Bukhopa, Zibele Sokabo, and Sebe Rasibitse. So those are the board members that look and provide oversight and strategic direction to the organization, and as per the constitution, it is their presence that accounts for the quorum of the AGM. So I'd like to also just mention other critical functions that assist us as the board in terms of the oversight. Members of the audit committee, we do have Mr. Maja, the chairperson of the audit committee. We also have got Dr. Len Connor, who is joining us virtually, Advocate Mueng, and Miss Piri. I had written them here and they disappeared. I think I forgot to save. My apologies. So it means I'm working on an old script. So this is going to be a very challenging task for me, but I'll try and navigate. And then also we have the internal audit here, Ms. Masana Ngobeni. Those are the structures that actually help us as a board to ensure that there is proper oversight in the affairs of the organization. I'd also like to just acknowledge some special people who are here with us today, without whom really we cannot actually have achieved what we've achieved. First and foremost, I'd like to recognize the representatives from the Executive Authority, the Department of Higher Education and Training, the team that is led by Mr. Trevor Charlie. If you can please stand up, sir, so that they can see you. Mr. Trevor, hand of applause. And then we also have got Sfundo Nozibele. If you can please stand up. Yes. David Mukevo. Thank you, sir. And Molife Masilela. Thank you very much. These are very important stakeholders, and we really appreciate for you to take your time and to come and just be with us, though you know the affairs of our business, but just your presence means a lot to us, and we really appreciate that. And then also we have amongst us wholesale and retail companies, business and labor organizations. We've got Seta CEOs, and I'm very pleased to see some of them being here. I'll mention those that I've actually seen. Is the CEO from Construction Seta. We've got also the CEO from Health and Welfare Seta. We've got CEO from Peace Seta, and also from TITA, the transport. We really appreciate the partnership. It really means this vision that Dr. Blade Zimande has is really working, you know, that CETAs should not see themselves as working in competition or in isolation from each other. At the end of the day, we all have the same mandate to deliver. So we really appreciate your presence. We also have the CEO of SIDA amongst us. We really appreciate that. And then we've also got the CEO of NSA. We really appreciate their presence as well amongst us. So, and we also got, private and public training providers, and also NGOs and other organizations. We really appreciate your presence. Also, the management team here is led by our beloved CEO, Mr. Tom Blessing Mkwanas. Blessing is very, very important. Mkwanas. He truly is a blessing to us. And then he will be introducing his management team during his presentation. So in terms of the program then, I'd like to go to item, I've got the wrong paper, but I need to go to the chairperson's report. Sorry. And I left my glasses. So this is item number 2. Hey, we're still so early in the program. We're still on item number 2. So the chairperson's report, I'll try and be briefed. And I assume that most of you have actually read our annual report. This is really what it is. We're just here to summarize all the information that is already covered on our annual report. As you know that the year under review, we had a performance of 83.78%. Do I need to repeat? Yes, 83.78%. And in the prior year, we had 81.16%. So it shows that, we are really, really making a good strides, and with our performance above 80%. And that's what we want to actually aim at maintaining. And this is a great improvement if we look where the SITA has been in the prior years. So thank you to everybody who has actually made this possible. That will never be possible without you as stakeholders as well. Because if you do not actually sign those contracts on time, ensure that those deliverables are made. I don't have slides. It's really an achievement that we all need to be proud of. There were some challenges, obviously, that we all are aware of affecting the sector, in particular, the war in Ukraine, impacted on various areas, especially on fuel prices, wheat prices, and maize prices, and also the ESCOM power crisis that we are still actually experiencing has actually had quite a significant impact in the businesses that are in our sector. So we are mindful of this performance under those challenges. The floods that we experienced in KZN in April of 2022. So this has had serious impact. It is estimated that the damages were above 25 billion rands, and that more than 800 businesses were actually destroyed or severely damaged during those floods in KZN. So it was quite a catastrophic event. But we are very happy that we survived it, and we know that most affected businesses were indeed the marginalized groups, which are the small businesses and informal traders. I'm also told here that we have the NUMSA Deputy Secretary General, Mbuso Ngubanes. Can you stand up, sir, so that we can see you and acknowledge you from the labor movements? There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Umbovu, siyabonga. Siyabonga kakhulu. So the 2022-2023 review of the sector skills plan included also stakeholder consultations on skills priorities, and much focus was towards creating a more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive economy, taking into account the challenges that I've just mentioned. The final SSP, lists the below mentioned 7 core priorities for the wholesale and retail SETA, which are the priority skills plan, focusing on the economic transformation and job creation, SMME, informal traders and cooperatives development is our second priority, youth unemployment is our third priority, hard to fill vacancies and skills gaps, stakeholder engagement, training and employment of people living with disabilities, and the sector transformation. So those are the 7 core priorities underpinning our SSP. So I am very pleased also with the progress, the report that was delivered by our CEO at the recent strategic review, that we are well on our way to meet most, if not all, of the objectives we set against our 5-year strategic plan, a report he will also share with you today. Because it's very, very important that when we set this 5-year strategic plan, that when we exit, we actually can look back and say all the objectives underpinning it were actually achieved. It was not just a talk show. The wholesale and retail SETA adopted a more inclusive approach which prioritizes women, youth, people living with disabilities, and rural communities. As an example of many interventions that we have implemented, one of them is that when we looked as a board at the sector in terms of transformation, with the oversight visits that we do, we actually realized that there weren't many, training providers of color in this sector. So as a board and having transformation as part of our strategic priority, we had to actually deal with that amongst many other initiatives. And this is a very, very, powerful way of empowering people, because we did not just bring them in. We first said they must be brought in, they must be trained, and they must get all the necessary, accreditation. And once they are accredited, and then we don't then leave them up in the open market and say, go and see yourself, because we know how it happens. So we actually going to be holding them by their hands and actually make sure that we actually offer them opportunities that they can actually meaningfully participate. And that's why we actually plan this program for a period of 3 years, that after a period of 3 years, then they'll be able to stand by themselves. And we actually are very proud to have done that as this board, because, transformation can be a very academic exercise, as we know. But it's very important that we make it practical and meaningful, and then it can change people's life. So that's one of the initiatives, it's not the only one. I just wanted to mention it as an example. And also the long-awaited stakeholder query management system is now in place, a hand of applause. Long-awaited. And for us, it's very, very important as the board to ensure that our stakeholders, are not suffocated or frustrated by the system, that they are able to have access if they've got challenges, if they've got problems, that they can actually log this to a system which can be traced so that your complaints don't just disappear in the air. So this is the importance of this management system, and well done to management for finally implementing it. On strategic partnerships, the wholesale retail SETA still collaborate with the institutions of learning from TVET colleges, community education and training to higher education to increase access to skills development opportunities and capacity to deliver the SETA's programs. The wholesale and retail SETA continues to invest in high-value projects on infrastructure to support and strengthen the TVET and CET colleges. I have to repeat that. Our high-value infrastructure projects are aimed at TVET colleges and the CET colleges, working together with the communities where they actually exist. This support is talking to the government's objective to produce 30,000 artisans annually by 2030 in alignment with the National Skills Development Plan, the NSDP, and also the ERRP, the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. The construction of the first flagship Seku College Skills Development Center continued during the period under review, with more than 95% of the infrastructure having been completed and already in use by 31 March 2023. So we did not build a white elephant. A hand of applause, please. As part of our oversight role, the board carried out its annual project site visits and stakeholder engagements. The visits are on a strategic level and aimed, among other reasons, at assessing the return on the SETA's investments towards the initiatives that are aligned with the National Skills Development Plan and other government priorities. On the other hand, the impact of the projects on the livelihood and prospects of the communities they serve is heartwarming. The Wholesale and Retail SETA board is very satisfied that the SETA's funds are being used for the right purpose. And that is why these visits are very critical. We have to go and see how these programs are being implemented, what are the challenges. And when we speak with stakeholders, it also assists us when we sit at strategic level to be able to review our strategy from an informed basis. So these are very, very serious visits, and we encourage stakeholders to actually be open and transparent when we actually visit your area. The board continued to execute its function of monitoring performance against the predetermined targets set out in the annual performance plan and the service level agreement entered with the head. The board is also setting the right tone and direction on delivering a meaningful and impactful transformation agenda, as I stated earlier on. On audit matters, the board has considered the unqualified report of the Auditor General on the Wholesale and Retail SETA's financial statement and performance information. A hand of applause. The board is also pleased that the organizational ICT platform has been developed over the past few years, and it is almost complete to eliminate the myriad of manual processes that have actually placed us in a lot of trouble. Because if things are processed manually and with the volumes and the bulk of documents that the SETA deals with, the chances of error are very great. So this is one of the key operational enabler that we as a board have been really pushing hard on management to make sure that they deliver it. And I'm happy to say that we are almost there. So this will assist in ensuring that we've got automated processes which will contribute towards an efficient and effective organization embedded in good corporate governance. Moving ahead, the Wholesale and Retail SETA's 5-year strategic plan will continue to focus on the strategic priorities that I've already mentioned, and the board is also committed to ensuring that the Wholesale and Retail SETA continues to improve on its performance to exceed the current levels. The board acknowledges the support and contribution of the following: the Minister of Higher Education and Training for this specific purpose, Dr. Blade Nzimande, in absentia, stakeholders, wholesale and retail companies, constituents, organizations, institutions of learning, and other partners that make it possible for the Wholesale and Retail SETA to execute its mandate. We'll also like to give our gratitude to the CEO for his sterling leadership as the Wholesale and Retail SETA continues its efforts of continuous improvements. The support of his management team and staff makes all the achievements possible, and we actually would like to officially recognize that, as well as the board. And on that note, I would like to then thank you and close my report so that we can then carry on with the program, which now I will be inviting the CEO to take us through his report. And I'll also encourage stakeholders to please just write down your questions. We will have a questions and answer session at the end of this AGM to ensure that we accommodate your the questions that you might have and also that we can clarify the information that we have presented to you today. And most importantly, we will be coming to a session after these reports where we will need to adopt this report. Now, I do not want that to be a silent environment where people are just quiet. Having seen the reports, and if you're happy with the reports, then we need to then officially adopt the reports in the AGM. So, and I think you'll be encouraged if you look at the program that there were people that actually did that in the previous AGMs. So please, we would like to be held up because there is no mover and the seconder. So I'm just preparing you before we come to that session and before we start the reports. Over to you, CEO. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good evening to everyone that is attending the conference. I think the chair has already acknowledged everyone in the meeting. I'm not going to do the South African thing of going all over again and acknowledging everyone. So I will just say all protocol observed. Chairperson, thank you for this opportunity. Firstly, let me just introduce the management team of the W&RSETA. I've got the COO, Chief Operations Officer on my right-hand side, Mr. Siposhoba, and then I've got the CFO, Chief Financial Officer on the other side, Ms. Lindy Wentlapo. And then in the room, the Chief Audit Executive, Masana Ngubeni. And then I've got the ICT Executive there, Barnabas Musekwameng. And then the SPP executive is not here, is not feeling well. Debbie Machad, so she's not well. And then we also have got the Chief Corporate Services Executive, Sugar Ngobo. I don't know whether he's here. Okay, it doesn't look like he's here right now. So that's the management team of the W&RSETA. Obviously, there are other management team members that are here that I'm not going to be able to, otherwise we'll spend the whole day. That doesn't mean that they are not as important as these team members that are here. So my work is just to share with you what we have done as a SETA. We will then, and I think the chair has shared with us the operating environment where we find ourselves as an organization. you know, in our performance. So we had about 37 targets as a SETA, and we were able to then achieve the number 83.78%, obviously with an unqualified opinion. Obviously, operating under this environment, I guess our retailers are really affected. Today I was at the meeting where ESCOM was just sharing us the outlook in the next 18 months, and it's not looking good. So which means our stakeholders will still be operating in this environment, and obviously our work gets affected in one way or the other, whether we like it or not, whether in the retail space or in the institutions of learning. And that is why, as a SETA, we look at all these issues to ensure that we see how we can then respond to this. Obviously, high unemployment rate is a big issue in South Africa, and we all know it, and I don't have to give you the numbers. You know, in South Africa, we don't like exaggerating. We even talk about expanded unemployment. So we've got those particular issues. But also we had to respond on the issues of the fact that we had COVID-19, and after COVID-19, obviously, we had to change how we do things within W&RSETA and together with our stakeholders, and also how we then respond to all other risks also related to cybersecurity, but also the issue of the weak economy where we are finding ourselves as an organization. So all this work happened within this environment that we've just indicated to you. So we'll then start with where the organization is. So we've just went back up to 2019 where we were. So we were moving from 67%, and obviously when we got into 2021, because we reduced the number of indicators and the targets because of the COVID-19, our performance shot up a little bit to 80.6%, and then we then dipped in the last 2021 financial year, and then we're almost on an upward trajectory in 2023. So this is how we have performed over this period. Our SLA, we again in 2021 we performed at 73%, and then the trend is the same with the APP, and then we've gone up to 83%, which seems to be on par with the performance currently within the organization. So the chairperson spoke to us about the fact that we've got a strategic plan as an organization. So we're looking therefore at our strategic plan, and obviously we have planned for a clean audit by 2025. So you would see that in 2021 we got a qualified audit opinion, and in this year under review, we've then changed the faces of the organization into an unqualified audit, and we're hoping that we would continue towards the clean audit. Again, the chair spoke about the issues of us as an organization automating our processes within the organization so that we can make sure that we make things easier for us and our stakeholder. We're such a big sector. We might not be number one in terms of the SETA, in terms of the number, in terms of SETAs, but in terms of the numbers, we've got such huge numbers, and working on paper would not definitely work in our organization. So that is why we're working on ensuring that we are changing our processes and ensuring that we are automating as an organization. And we've got a 5-year plan, and we want to get into 90% by 2025. The second outcome, obviously, it's issues of career guidance. We know that young people do not look at the sector as a career of choice, and I think we want to be deliberate as a SITA to ensure that they just don't get into our sector by default. So we deliberate about that. So we then had a career guidance strategy that we have approved, and we are in the process of implementing that. But in the process, we have, over the period of 3 years, had these number of interventions that we've had for urban and rural: 551, 618, and 25 on educators, and also 25 people enrolled in career guidance information qualification. On outcome 3, where we are focusing really on the development and support of our providers, which is AEE, higher education and training, TVET, and CETs. We've really had a number of partnerships that we've put in place. We had a target, and we've almost overachieved those targets. We are almost at 32. This comes through a number of programs that we've done, including the one that the chairperson that was indicating on infrastructure projects, or on supporting CETs with ICT mobile, ICT information centers, so that those that are in our communities benefit. But there's just a number of programs that we've had, 32 of them, and the chair also has spoken about the HID SDP program, and that was talking about on training providers. We, as a SITA, it's our job as part of the NDP to look at the research agenda to support and inform and also look at the impact of the programs that we've had. We've got a target of about 20. We are already at 11 already, and 8 impacts assessments that we have done. For us, it's really important. I think I was speaking to one of the stakeholders in terms of exiting the learners. It's well and good that we are registering the learners, but I think we are challenged as an organization in terms of exiting the learners, and I think it's something that we really need to work on in the organization. So we have got a target there of exiting about 3,000 in our 3,500. We are already at 20,000, and also looking at 12,000 of young people being employed. We know that we probably don't have any control of that particular process, but we have in some cases put in some programs and partnerships with the industry, which we would like us to continue to ensure that those young people that get into programs do get employed at the end of the day. Otherwise, it means we are just training for unemployment. We also have to increase access to our programs, especially on the retail occupational related programs. So we are there a target of about 7,000, and we are already at 26,000 in the last 3 years. What we have done as a SITA is that we don't have a target that specifically focuses on people with disability and looking at rural areas. We'll mainstream that as part of the work that we do as a SITA, and we are happy to announce that we have been able to surpass the target of 4% to about 6% in the last 3 years. And also looking at rural areas, we are at 25%. As I said, so we are really happy with the progress that we've had. We also have got a responsibility, and funny enough, in the meeting that I had today with the industry, I was quite happy that there is an effort from the industry to ensure that SMMEs are supported. And because they are almost the backbone of this economy. So we, as a SETA, have supported about 7,883 informal traders over the last 3 years. We also have supported 71 cooperatives, and we've got 3 transformation projects, and 2 have already been implemented. We've got also worker-initiated programs with the unions. We had 15 interventions that we had planned. I think over the 3 years that we've been in the SETA, for the first time, we've done very well in ensuring that we do also support the trade unions, because they are important stakeholder within the skills development environment. We had planned for 15, and we are already at about 24. We plan therefore to increase membership participation and capacitation of the programs by 20%, and we've done very well with the number there of about 3,700. Obviously, the chair again spoke about us looking at the hard-to-fill vacancies. The number there, it's about 28,000 with a target of about 10,000. We really have got to look and do a research and not just implement the program and see whether we are dealing with the imbalance skills supply and demand in our priority skills. That's we haven't done that particular research, but we are in the process of dealing with that. We also have to respond to the fact that there's 4 IR. Everyone is talking about IR, and there's the need for ICT skills. So we've got targets there that we're not doing very well there, but on one area we've managed to have learners that have received qualification that are 54 out of a target of 200, and we've got 1,500 there on ICT skills. We've got about 7, at least there. We're almost halfway there. Obviously, as an organization, we had lowlights, and I think it is important that we share where we've not done very well as an organization, because that's very, very important for us to see how all of us as stakeholders, we can then work together in ensuring that we are able to meet those particular targets. Unemployed bursaries, we haven't done well there. You can see that the target was 3,500. We only managed 2,300. Employed bursaries awarded. You can also see that probably employers are not taking bursaries. So we've got a target of 1,895, and we only managed 1,090. And bursary completion, we're doing very badly there. We don't know. We've been looking, and we're doing some research to find out what are the issues, and then also young people completing in the work integrated learning. We really have got a problem, because I think I'm sure the department would know this, that young people jump around, don't finish the programs. They look at a stipend there, and they move to there, and from that stipend there. So we've got lots of socio-economic issues that are causing us for young people not to really complete and the programs. And probably we have to do something there in terms of how we deal with this particular issue, whether we standardize as SETAs, we create shared services systems so that young people cannot move from one SETA to another. Those are the issues that we are working on, and I think the department is assisting us in dealing with that particular issue. completions on learning programs there. We're talking about both learnerships and skills program. Again, we really, the throughput rate is very, very low. So the number was 4,850. We only achieved 3,926. We had that indicator where we were to look about at the percentage of allocation, and I think we didn't do well. We missed it. We missed it by 1%, like New Zealand. If we can then looking at our priorities as an organization, we do have a priority skills plan through our SSP process. We're even looking at having provincial skills plan, and that's the work that we've been doing. If you look at program, what is it, program 2, you would see that we've achieved that particular target. And also if you look at the impact studies and the research projects that we have done, we've actually achieved that. And we've tried also to improve in ensuring that in our process of doing the sector skills plan process, we go as wide as possible. But what is important to stakeholders is that it is important that the right people come to these consultation processes so that we get the right information for us to be able to get the right information, because it's garbage in, garbage out. So we've been able to also give bursaries to for ICT skill for about 265 bursaries. On SMME and cooperatives and informal traders, you can see the numbers there for yourself. So we had one on entrepreneurship where we're looking at young people. So we had a target of 250 and we achieved 257. And informal traders, the target was 2,400, and you can see there that we managed to do about 3,000 looking at informal traders in terms of their capacitation. On SMME, the target was also 2,400. You can see the need there, and we were able to achieve just 4,000 or just over 4,300. Cooperatives, the target was 20. We only achieved that 20. If we look at youth unemployment, those are the numbers here. It's all the programs that we're doing, either skills program, occupational qualification, learnerships, you name them, and that's what we've achieved in this financial year under review. Hard to fill vacancies here, there again. We're looking generally on the hard to fill vacancies, and the numbers that have been funded by the Seta are almost both employed and the unemployed. It's about 25,000 that we've achieved in this financial year. Stakeholder management is really very important for us. So we had a number of sessions because we want to know and engage with you so that we can give information, including the oversight meetings that are done by the board. But we also have got a stakeholder satisfaction survey as a Seta, where we do a national survey on assessment in terms of how we are doing as an organization. People with disability, those are the numbers that we have been able to achieve, and we are sharing with you some of the projects that we were involved in terms of ensuring. So that's that 6.44% that we are indicating comes from that number, but this is only just for this financial year. So if we look at sector transformation, So we've got 2 flagship program within the W&RSETA, which is the Retail Management Development Program, 283 numbers there, and then 60 for senior managers enrolled in International Leadership Program. And we are also happy to announce that we're now getting people get into programs on masters, MBAs, and whatever the programs, and we were able to achieve the 17. Although we didn't achieve the target for the employed bursaries, but these are the numbers that we made in terms of the sector transformation project. Chairperson, thank you, and I'll just take this opportunity just to reiterate what you've indicated, to really express our gratitude to the Department of Higher Education and Training, especially at DG, pass our gratitude to the DG and the whole team, especially Mr. Chale and the team which we constantly are engaging on a continuous basis, and we've got very good relationship in that particular space. Sometimes we don't agree on certain things, which is okay, and that's how we should be working. I mean, if we were agreeing, I think things would not go to where we're supposed to go. To the board for your stewardship and really providing strategic direction to all of us, and also allowing us to sometimes be innovative and think outside the box on certain areas, and so that we can really be able to make impact out there, because really our work should make an impact rather than just dealing with the numbers that we've indicated. Really, then the next, people that are really important here in the organizations, the staff of the organization. Heartfelt appreciation to the staff for their sterling work and their commitment, and so one of the stakeholders was telling me, his experience with the staff members and the stakeholders and the work and the pressure that the staff members have to go through within the organization, and it's really from the bottom of my heart, and probably the whole team here, we really appreciate, and I'm sure the board agrees with that. To you stakeholders, you're really important. We won't be able to do the work that we are doing, whether you are employers, whether you are training providers, whether you are institutions of learning in the public space, whether you are NGOs out there or community organizations. All of you, really, we appreciate, because you really enable us to really get into our vision and make our work to a point much more easier, and be able to achieve what we need to achieve there, including other partners from other government departments, like your Department of Economic Development from the provinces, Department of Education. They allow us to do our career guidance programs there, the Department of Small Business Development, in terms of us looking at issues of the SMMEs. So we've been able to do our work because of all these stakeholders that I'm talking about, and we really want to appreciate you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CEO. I'll now like to invite our CFO to then take us through the finances, so that we can note how we have also performed on that area. This is Lindiwe. Over to you.
Thanks, Tim. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I have the privilege of presenting the financial statements for the year that's ended in 2022-2023. I'll start off by looking at our skills development levy receipts for the year, how we fared out in terms of that. But in total, we have received about 1,419 million rands of levies, and this is a 7.2 increase from the prior year. And then just to look at where we have performed against our budgets, just at the high level items. The first one, in terms of the SDL levies, we've exceeded budget by 1%. And then in terms of our expenditure, we've basically fared below our budgeted numbers. If you look at our DG spend, we had budgeted about 1,463 million rands. We've expensed about 1,130 million rands, which is basically 23% below what we have budgeted for. And then in terms of mandatory grant expenditure for the year, we have incurred, or rather expensed, 236 million rands for the year, which essentially made up 85% of the total budget for the year. But I think in terms of just looking at that in isolation, one would think, okay, perhaps we have not performed that well because we've expensed below budget. But if we look at an analysis just of our expenditure over the past couple of years, you could see that there is actually a steady increase in how we are spending our funds. With the exception of our administration is the yellow line on the graph that you see there. It's relatively flat, essentially indicating that we are very much conscious in how we spend on our admin and ensure and continuously monitor that and ensure that there's cost containment in place, and also that we are compliant with the 10.5% legislated limit. But in terms of our mandatory grants and our discretionary grant, the discretionary grant is the line on top, the blue one. You can actually see that when you compare it year on year, we're actually improving. In fact, we're dispersing more funds than we did even pre-COVID. If you look at where we're sitting 2019 and 2020, that was pre-COVID, we're actually dispersing far more, and we continuously strive to ensure that we continue to do so in terms of our DG spend. And looking in total now at our total revenue, that's inclusive of our SDL levies. It's also inclusive of interest that we earn on our investments, also inclusive of any penalties and interests that SARS collects on levies that were paid late. Essentially, there, in terms of total revenue, in total, we've received about 1.5 billion, which is actually 11.7% above prior year. So we've received more income than we did in the prior year. Predominantly, yes, we've seen the 7% on levies, but also predominantly because of our interest. We understand that there has been an increase in the repo rate for for the past year, and that has impacted obviously in how we have earned our interest received. And then total expenditure, now that is lumping up all the grant expenditure and also our admin expenditure. We are 27% above the prior year, but that is highly indicative of the DG grant spent, where I've shown the spike in comparison to the prior year and the current year and how we have spent on DG spent. I've already spoken to our interest income, and also you'll see that when we closed off the year in terms of cash in the bank, we closed off with about 2.6 billion rands of cash in the bank, a bit lower than last year, but 4.5% lower than last year. But it actually correlates to the fact that we have disbursed more DG funds than we had in the prior year. I think I've spoken to DG expenditure. This is just a comparison of prior year and the current year. And essentially, as a result of this increase, we've actually closed off with a deficit. Now, in our environment, a deficit is not a bad thing. It actually means, because we are an expenditure-driven environment, it actually means that we're actually doing well. We are performing, we should be seen to be spending the money. So we have closed the year with a deficit of 42 million rands. It will be more. We're hoping it will be more going forward, because we have an intention and a commitment to make sure that we can increase our disbursements going forward. And looking at our solvency position, this is where we are in terms of our statement of financial position. I think it's important that we understand that as a SETA, we have enough reserves. We are sitting with a positive net asset value. We are basically sitting with a net asset value of accumulated reserves of 2.5 billion. But also when you look at the green represents our cash and cash equivalents. So that's cash in the bank. And you can see that we've actually got enough cash reserves to cover our commitments. The commitments being the yellow part of the graph, basically showing all our future obligation and that we've got sufficient reserves to actually cover that. So from a solvency perspective as a SETA, we are quite solid. And also, I think it's important, it's also contained in the annual report and also within our financial statements, is to look at our compliance issues in terms of expenditure. And we made an undertaking last year when we stood here, we had a qualified audit, and we made an undertaking that we are going to improve on compliance issues to address the gaps that we have. And you can already see that there is a shift in terms of compliance. In the current year, we do not have any fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We also do not have what is called unauthorized expenditure incurred. We did not have that in the prior year. We don't have that in the current year. And then in terms of irregular expenditure as well, you start seeing there's a reduction in that. We had incurred 33.5 in the prior year. We're now sitting at 18.4. And just to highlight that again, I think I'd like to stress the fact that irregular expenditure, what it actually means, it really just means that we did not adhere to certain legislative requirements. In this instance, the 18% was basically because we have a limit in terms of our admin spend on our DG. Our discretionary grant, we have a 7.5% that is actually allocated to administration. And as an entity, we actually, because we've fallen short in meeting our budget spent for DG, it has then affected our limit for the 7.5. And that's essentially what that 18% is looking at how much did we exceed the 7.5 by. And that is essentially affected by how much DG spent how much of our expenditure in DG do we actually disperse. So the closer we become, or the closer we are to our actual budget, we would not have this problem going forward. We are looking into that and trying to improve efficiencies around just disbursement of DG expenditure going forward. And I will not repeat, I think it's been already announced and shared by both the chairperson and the CEO that our audit outcome this year has improved from the prior year. But if I may just summarize some of the important elements that are contained in the actual AG report itself. In terms of the report on the financial statements themselves, yes, they have expressed an unqualified opinion. But they've also included two matters of emphasis, and just to quickly highlight and summarize what they relate to. The first one, they're just basically highlighting changes in a framework by National Treasury. In the past, when it came to irregular expenditure, we would disclose all the irregular expenditure dating back years. So if we had expenditure going back to 2019 that had not been condoned, we will disclose it on the face of the financials. The changes to the framework are basically that we just need to show the comparative figures, and the rest of the information is contained in another section on the annual report and not on the financials themselves. So that is just basically the first point of emphasis that the AG has decided that the users of the financial statements need to be made aware of. And the other matter of emphasis relates to retention of surpluses. As a state entity, we are required every year to obtain permission and approval from Treasury to retain our surpluses, the reserves that I've already reported on of 2.5 billion. And last year, there was just a unique occurrence whereby Treasury delegated the approval to the department or to the executive authority. So essentially, that is what that particular paragraph of emphasis of matters about, is just highlighting that significant change as well in procedures for the users to note. The AG's report also provides, it's not an opinion, but they actually do provide information on on the report that the CEO has reported on, the annual performance report on the targets. They audit that, and then they provide, not really an opinion, but they provide a review to state whether or not were there any material findings found. And in this particular case, in the current year, there were no material findings in terms of the information, the performance information that has been reported on. And that's just basically summing up the, I don't know, I think it's a 6-page audit report that is contained in the annual report. And just in conclusion, I'd just like to reiterate, I think I've already shared when I showed our cash reserves versus our commitment, that as a SETA, we do remain a going concern. But most importantly, yes, we have shown improvements from last year, but I think it's important that we continue to commit to improving, firstly, our compliance and our DG spend, as I've already indicated, just to make sure that when we come back here next year, our performance looks even better. You know, we shouldn't be comfortable with where we're sitting, but every year we should come back and look back and see an upward trajectory, both in the compliance sense, but also in how much we are spending as a SETA. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, CFO. Very encouraging to see that we are increasing on our expenditure. I say in this environment, we do not become heroes by not spending. We do not become heroes by not spending, but we have to spend within the right framework. So it's very important that the money that employers pay as levies is used. It comes in and go out to do the work and to change people's lives. I would now like to invite our COO, Chief Operations Officer, the full name, Mr. Sipho Shoba, to come and present to us the 5-year strategic plan and the annual performance plan for the 2024-2025 financial year. Over to you, COO. Hand of applause for him.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, and good evening to the leadership from the board, the stakeholders, and my colleagues. Our annual performance plan for 24-25, that is the way to go, where we're going. So I'm going to be taking you through, but I will just summarize the number of targets that we have for our 24-25 financial year that have been reduced from 37 in the year under review, now into 34. So these targets are listed in 4 different programs. That is Program 1 under administration, Program 2 will be research, and then Program 3, it will be learning program, and then Program 4, it will be quality assurance. Program 1, as I indicated, Chair, we have 2 indicators, output, one being the audit opinion, and the other one being the stakeholder session, wherein we're intending to have about 16 sessions. We really advocate for our stakeholders to support all those stakeholder consultation sessions that we will be undertaking in the year 24-25, because they are very important for the SETA to understand what is the attitude of the sector and how therefore we can reshape our offerings so that we are responsive to what the sector requires. Then under Program 2, we've got about 5 targets, one being the planning documents, which we're keeping at 3, as it was the case in the year under review. And we also have 2 memorandum of understanding with strategic partners that address the sector needs that we'll be doing, and we have 3 for research reports that we intend to complete by 24-25, and the sector-directed tracer or impact studies report, it will be 2, and postdoctoral fellow enrolled to support the sector research agenda implementation will be 2. Those are the targets that sits under Program 2. Then now we go to Program 3. I think that's where, I guess, Chair, the most interest will be, because I think program 3 and 4 represent just below 80% of the SETA annual performance target 24-25, because I think it carries about 22 targets, program 3, and those targets are the WSP ATR for small, medium, and large companies. What, Chair, I would really like perhaps to share with the stakeholders, which is about a slight change on how we intend to achieve these 3 targets in the 24-25 financial year, is the last date of approval of the WSP or Annex 2 document being moved from February to December, because we try to disperse as early as possible the mandatory grant for the stakeholders. Otherwise, we want to look good in terms of expenditure, even from the side of the mandatory grant. It is for that reason we have at least brought it quite closer, the approval of the WSP. So we will do everything to the best of our ability in that financial year to ensure that all the stakeholders that will have submitted the Annex 2, they've got therefore to be approved by not later than 15 December of 2024-25 financial year. That will impact in terms of the disbursement on the mandatory grant. Then we have the unemployed bursaries, Chair, and stakeholders. I think we have not done well, as we have seen in the year under review. And in the 24-25, we have then reduced the number of unemployed bursaries from 3,005 to 2,005. Because we've been struggling, we've been trying year in, year out, but then we're realizing that we're not winning in terms of that. So now it has been reduced from 3,005 to 2,500 for the year 24-25, and also the employed bursaries, which is a target that we have not been so good for year in, year out. But we still use this opportunity, Chair, to really appeal to our stakeholders to take the opportunity for employed bursary opportunities that we are offering, so that then we are able to skill the sector and impact in terms of our priority number 1, if I'm not mistaken, that of economic transformation. So the bursaries for employed are very key in terms of that. Now, if you look at other targets for 24-25, Chair, they remain the same, with only that of unemployed completions, that we also looking at the number of about 5,145, because we wanted to drive towards the 5-year strategic planning outcome of achieving the completions for unemployed learners. The rest of the output indicators, Chair, they look as they are in terms of artisanal programs. We are looking at about 750, and thank you to the department for understanding, because at one point they will have wanted us to do about 1,000. We appealed, we're not good in that space, hence therefore we agreed on the 750 for artisanal program and the completion 350. Then in terms of the work integrated learning, which is mainly your internship, your graduate placement and all that, our numbers are 2,945, and the completions, we're still keeping them at 850. You might have seen in the year under review, we did not meet that particular indicator. We just achieved, I think, just less than 500, and now we want to keep it at 850, because there seem to be some difficulties with our learners. As the CEO has indicated, they move from one SETA to the other, and that impact on us. So we will want to keep it at that target number. For employed learners on learning programs, we're keeping the number at 9,800, and all the other indicators, mainly for SME support, as you can see, from small down to the person enrolled on entrepreneurial program, they form part of our SME support programs, and we've got those 4 particular interventions where we'll want to keep our numbers as they are. Then I'll move, Chair, to program 4, which is quality assurance. We're happy that in the year under review, we achieve 100%. And we will want also to believe that in our 24-25, the numbers as they look, we'll still have the HET partnerships. We'll also support the Center of Specialization, which will be 4 in that particular financial year. The partnership with TVET colleges, in particular public, we are intending to continue with the 16 partnership in that financial year. and as well as the Seta presence, wherein our visibility in terms of our outlook in all the provinces will keep it at 32, and the partnership with the CETs remaining at about 3 in the year 24-25. I think, Chair, that then sums up how our 24-25 financial year will look. And as I indicated that we have now 34 targets. That is 3 less from the current year under review, because we moved other 3 targets like your allocation of resources to low level, intermediate and high into our service level agreement, so that in the APP we focus on these output indicators that the stakeholders will be having an outlook and prepare themselves in terms of their skills planning on how we intend to allocate the resources. So they are still our target, but no longer in the APP, but move in the SLA, especially in terms of those resource allocations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Sabo.
Thank you, COO. Well, we've come to the end of the business of the day, but before we go for the noting of the reports, we're opening up for questions and answer session, and we've got the full team here to assist with the answers. So you can just raise up your hand. Assume we should be having roving mics. Yes, at the back, just raise up your hand. Please introduce yourself, who you are, from which institution or organization you're coming from, and then you can then ask your question. Well, there we go. Ms. Lula.
Can you hear? Okay. Good evening. My name is Ntombi Dludla from Boxer Superstores. I must be honest, thank you so much to W&RSETA leadership for such insightful reports. I think we appreciate the work that has gone into it. But I'm just sort of need to table this unemployed bursaries target, understanding the country that we live in, understanding the young people that need these bursaries, and we've even gone to reducing the target. I just needed to find out what is the strategy of ensuring that the young people know that we have these bursaries. How are we reaching them? Have we really sort of failed to meet this target? It's such an important target for our country. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. That was well articulated. Then there's a couple of hands this side.
Good evening. My name is Coltrane, and I'm from Chamberlain. I want to ask, with regard to your informal trader support, probably I'm not knowledgeable about it. I wanted to ask that how can we contribute or partner as a company in capacitating, because we do have the know-how in terms of retail, and we've been looking at ways in which we would like to have a positive impact by upskilling the informal traders. So I did get the number that 3,000 of them were empowered, but I don't have clarity in terms of how can we contribute or even train and provide skills for them to grow their businesses. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, can you repeat your name again?
It's Coltrane, C-O-L.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, the next one. You can go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tulile Mahluchana, and I represent an organization called MATIS. I think my question goes to the dropout rate that we have with regards to the unemployed learners. Is there perhaps a notion that the W&RSETA could collaborate with other SETAs in order to create one system that will talk to the registration of these unemployed learners? Because I think the problem here is dual. Because ourselves as stakeholders, or companies rather, we also have the very same frustration. We will recruit learners, and because there isn't a system where we can do pre-checks to see whether or not that particular learner is reflecting at another SETA under a certain qualification, we will then give them the employment, they will then engage with us, and then on registration stage or completion of that registration, then we find out from our SETA that that particular learner is actually registered with another SETA at another intervention. So perhaps the integration of the SETA's systems somewhere, somehow correlates back to us, the employers, that we too can tap in and we can do pre-checks before we actually give permanent or rather employment contracts to the unemployed learners.
I'd just like to add to that thinking, sorry, because I've got a passion for young people. And yes, we need that integrated system. If we get it right, then the next hurdle is now they cannot roam around to get this stipend. Now they are sitting at home doing nothing. How do we deal with that as well? Because it's not just about fixing the system, it's how do we actually make sure that these young people are employable. We really need ideas from the stakeholders on that. In particular, employers. How can you assist us to ensure that we actually absorb these people into employment as well? But thank you for that commentary, yes. Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
I'm Sibongiseni Nguni from an organization called Insika Youth Development. We deal with skills development. We deal a lot with young people. What the sister has just alluded to is a very, very serious problem. Because you find that one learner will be in 3 learnership at the very same time. And that becomes very problematic because you will expect a very high dropout rate. Therefore, the centralized learner system, I think, is very, very important. Because on our side, we are not able to pick that up. So I will urge, I think, W&RSETA to take it up with the DHT because it's across the board. The second suggestion that I will put in because of dealing with young people, the challenges that I think they face, the CEO spoke about this. The problem, we are tasked with the responsibility of providing skills development. However, whilst providing this service, you find that actually there's a lot of social ills that impact on the program itself, where you find that a learner will come to training by foot, but they've been provided a stipend so that they can be able to commute and be able to buy food and all of that. But they will use the money to buy food at home. And when you ask, you find that actually the problem is more serious than what we thought. In our case, what we then did, we then spoke to social development to try and assist those learners that had, that kind of a problem. So I will also urge W&RSETA to talk to social development, particularly on, learning programs where learners, especially in deep rural areas, where they really struggle in terms of getting to the venue for training, getting food and all of that, because the problem does not only start at the training with the learner, but it starts at home where there's no food, and you'll find that actually no one is working at home. They actually depend on this learner. So these are some of the issues that affect, and actually when you look at the high dropout rate, that will be the result. It's not necessarily that learners don't want to attend training, but there's a lot of social ills that need collaboration among stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think we'll take the 5th one then with allow management to respond.
Thank you,
Yes,
Chair.
ma'am.
My name is Gwena Mantume from the Spark Group. So my question, I think it's also around what Ausin Tombe has alluded to, but more particularly around the employed bursaries. It's actually said that we see that the SETA is not meeting the targets on the employed bursaries, while us as stakeholders who've got a big workforce and, in business, when the business is not doing so great, the first thing that they cut is our training budgets, and we are unable to fund or capacitate and accommodate all our permanent employees who apply for bursaries at higher institutions, and we decline some of their applications. So my question is, how can we then, as stakeholders of the magnitude of our businesses, partner with the SETA to assist in meeting those targets, and also for us to assist our employees who endeavor in studying in further educations? Thank you, Chair.
I like that question of how we can assist. And so let's give management the response. But we also have people online. So after this, we'll also give the people online the opportunity after these responses.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to deal with Gwena. Gwena and Dombi on unemployed bursaries. Stakeholders need to take care of training and be responsible for it and not outsource it. Because the fact that you are unable, you don't even know sometimes, is because of the people that you hire to do applications for yourselves and all those things. So you are outsourcing your skills development, and in a way you don't know. And I've seen this when I engage with the stakeholders. Then you don't know what the programs we have, except what these people that you have appointed have got their programs. So they're only interested in their own programs. They're not interested in sharing with you all the other programs that you have. So if that can change, where employers take responsibility. I mean, I went into one big employer in KwaZulu-Natal. Everything that they do, it's done by someone external. Okay, so that's really, really, really important to look at. If you can just take skills development, it becomes high up, and learning and development becomes really strategic in the organization, and especially I'm talking for those employers that can afford to do it. We can then deal with this particular issue of the employed bursaries. Because the focus usually is on unemployed learnerships, because there are benefits that we all know what those benefits are. Then on the then issue of unemployed bursaries, the challenge is the fact that you've got NSFAS, you've got us coming as a SETA. So obviously we can't provide everything that NSFAS provides. So we've therefore changed our strategy and said we are really focusing on the missing middle. Okay, so we want to focus on the missing middle, but also we have to engage with the institutions of learning. So our drive in this financial year has been just to go and talk to, because there are also problems, or not problems, let me not use that, a challenge in a way, because they mix young people that have applied for, what do you call this thing, for NSFAS, and they've also applied to us because they're not sure what's going to happen. That at the end of the day, NSFAS approves, then the SETA gets dropped. in the process. And this has been happening year in and year out. So what we've done is that we've started a deliberate process to speak to the institutions of learning. And for me, I'm hopeful that this is going to then change. But we are also focusing on the missing middle as an issue. But we're also thinking about how as a SETA, we are going to implement bursaries, because maybe there are also administrative issues internally. So we therefore can't continuously say we're spending money, but we're not seeing traction and a return on investment. And you can see that the numbers don't talk to the investment that we've made over a period of time. So I think that's where we are. So we really understand that there is a need, but the need should be focusing only on the missing middle. And that is why we did not scrap it all together. We said, let's just reduce the number and put our house in order, also have stakeholder engagement, and see whether the strategy that we are putting in place is going to work. And if it works, we'll probably talk a different conversation altogether regarding that particular issue. Coltrane, I'm excited to hear this, because then if we have got these programs that we have, and I think let's have a conversation about the fact that partnerships are going to create impactful programs for us, because if we all sit around the table and we identify people in these programs that we are doing, and we work with you, and we know that there's a market. You know, I know Chamberlain works, I just saw them, work in that particular space. Where, are you guys in hardware? Yeah, so you are in the hardware space. So if we can then start talking about how, when we implement this project, how can we then work with you? And let's be visible and have those conversations. And you, where are you based? It's in Pretoria. Okay, so okay, so there's the Gauteng South manager there at the back, Mr. Nene, just behind you. Start having a conversation. There's an SRM there, Mr. Malagu. You must start having a conversation, because they implement these projects in those particular provinces. And I'm happy. And even today earlier, when we were talking about SMMEs, the same conversation that I was hearing from the sector, that they want to partner. And for me, that's quite exciting. Dropouts, issues. I think the department, I think a week or two ago, we were in a meeting and we're discussing the same issue. So the department is working on a program. It might not come into fruition much more earlier. And there's also MICT Seta that is working on a system which is it's going to start creating a shared services where we're going to be trying to deal with these issues of professional learners that are moving from one place to another. So, and we, as Bonsen, we also understand the issue of the social ills, because a stipend is a stipend, it's not a salary. But we know that where we come from, and probably it's a good suggestion. We'll see. And unfortunately, I was supposed to have a meeting with the social development meeting that was cancelled, and we will engage on this particular issue again. So it's a great suggestion in dealing with those particular issues. Thank you. I don't know whether I covered everything.
Okay, I hope all the questions were answered. If not, you can do follow-up. Can we then get people online? Who is coordinated with Martha?
I'm here, Chair. The online platforms are not as robust as this room. So we only have one question at the moment from LinkedIn, And that question is being asked by Kakamba Muhulati, who is a researcher, also a public policy analyst. And her question relates to the strategic plan. And Kakamba is asking, what explains the move of not including all targets on the APP?
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, what explains the move of not including all targets on the APP?
Okay, I think we might need to understand that, because if you say all, which ones are missing? So can we get, maybe when we come back, she can indicate which ones are missing?
All right,
Okay.
we'll ask for clarity.
In the room, are there still, or there's a question that side? Yes.
Remember, it's a research.
Good evening. I'm Shari van der Merwe from GP Retail Operations. I'd like to ask if there is a possibility that W&RSETA can pay more attention or have more intensive programs for disability learnerships. I know it was mentioned just briefly, but I do find that a lot of employers are still struggling with that. I think most employers are not actually making their 2% target just for disabled employees, never mind learners, at the employment equity EIP target. So I do think that that's maybe a focus area. Our organization, we take in quite a number of disabled learners annually, but it's industry funded. So I don't know if there can maybe a little bit more attention put towards that. I do think the disabled learners tend to jump from learnership to learnership because they find a better option elsewhere. So unfortunately, we find that we end up not retaining them, and we'd like to rather retain them, have another move from level 2 to level 3 to level 4, etc. And that seems to be difficult because I just find another option, because a lot of companies have to do it, perhaps for BEE scorecards or in order to make their employment equity targets. And I'd like to see some more movement for that perhaps in the future. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It worries me that we always get this question, about how SETA can assist. And CEO, I think we need to ensure that we address that, because we're always looking for partners in that area. So I'm always worried that we always get these questions of how people can partner with us. But CEO, you'll have to elaborate on that. Any other question? Yes.
Chairperson, thank you very much. My name is Ntokozi Mchunu. I'm from the Nkungumate NPO, which runs the youth center in Ganza, KwaZulu-Natal. So I don't know if it's a comment or a question, but I just want to find out from your SETA as to when the SETA is going to consider funding the NPOs directly for the DG and the strategic project, so that we can also assist the SETA to reach the hard-to-reach communities. Our interest is more on internship and TVET, will placement, and artisans. And we have run that for a number of years. So I can hear our colleagues are
they not allowed?
Are very worried about the learners who are dropping out. I have a different view in that, because
But what capacity
in
they
some
have?
internships programs that we have
What capacity
implemented
they have?
in the past, we have never
They are
seen
allowed.
a large number of dropouts from the learners, because maybe there is a need in rural communities, and we are inundated by a number of requests from young people seeking the assistance in terms of completing their TVET qualifications. So as an organization, we have established ourselves in a way that we have we have partnered with other host institutions so that we can extend the opportunities for the young people to enter the workplaces. Thank you.
Okay. Martha, have we got the response? Not yet. Is there another question?
Hi, good day. My name is Augustine Marakalala. I'm from an organization called Matlaba Human Resources Solutions. I just want to maybe Further, my question around people with disability, especially in the rural areas. And I'm asking this question because I had some meetings in Limpopo with a number of NGOs that are looking after the people with disabilities. And I think the question is more challenging, I will say, to the SETA and also to the employers, because their question is around these people getting employed, because a number of them are not given that opportunity to be employed, especially in most of the the retail businesses in the rural areas. So my question there is, how can the SETA, together with employers, maybe have, I wouldn't say have some collaboration, but have some sort of some agreements in between in terms of how they can come in together to assist these learners with disabilities, for them to be employable as well? That's basically my question. I don't know whether
it's clear. Thank you, thank you, August. Okay, over to you, CEO.
Chairperson, thank you. Quite difficult questions to deal with, and I think first, what the SETA's role is to facilitate skills development. So we don't implement projects, and I think if we can probably just understand that part, but we are willing to have a conversation, and I think years ago, I can't remember what year, we had a sensitization program on people with disability, and probably we need to think about having a sensitization program again within the W&RSETA. One employer even said to me, they need even sensitization within the organization itself. However, as a SETA, we do have a policy and a strategy on dealing with people with disability. Over and above the grant that you receive, we also have got what we call reasonable accommodation. Because we understand that when you take people with disability, you will have some challenges. But I think from where I'm coming from, one of the most important issues that we probably need to look at is the issue of the sensitization program that we put in place to actually, be deliberate about it, Charis, so that, because there is funding for people with disability, but we're probably just not getting the numbers. But also maybe we also need to talk about sharing of best practice. We just sit around the table because other employers do it within the wholesale and retail sector. So maybe we need to just sit down one day and say, you know what, let's have a best practice conference or summit where we get employers together so that we can then put it together and say, how are other employers doing it? So that the others can learn from others, but also be deliberate about what funding we have as a SETA in terms of that reasonable accommodation, including, by the way, people from rural areas. We have a strategy in the SETA that focuses again on issues of people that are coming from rural areas, and our funding and the strategy also does take care of what we call reasonable accommodation in those rural areas. Maybe we have not put that information out there for everyone to know about it, but it's available. NPOs and NPCs are also allowed to make applications when we do open windows for the opportunities that you are indicating. And I think sometimes what probably becomes an issue is the fact that you're probably not part of our mailing list, you know, where you can get into our mailing list so that when we send out all this information, that information becomes available. So, and I think we need to just ensure, I think from the provincial office side and from the marketing side, that all the information of the stakeholders that we engage with, we ensure that that information gets into our mailing list, and ensure that when we then are sending out information in terms of the programs that we have, and everyone can then see those particular opportunities. Yeah, so I'll just end there, but I agree, especially with in the area of people with disability. It's a challenging area. It needs just deliberate effort from both stakeholders and ourselves in terms of how we can just expand what we can do better in terms of the implementation.
Okay. Thank you, CEO. I think it was a good, I think something is falling behind. That reminds me of my grandmother who said, "Unomsila, wangena umnyango wangavaleka." So I can feel that I've got a tail. Okay, thank you. I think these were really good engagements, colleagues, and maybe I think also to encourage something really that was well done by our CEO and his team was the summit, Skills Summit. I think that was a good start, and I think most people also acknowledge that we need from that summit to have various workshops, and the area of disability was a priority there. The issue of bursaries, again, for me, is not something we can always come here, no matter how many reasons we have. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to know that our kids are sitting at home, they cannot afford education when we've got money. But just from that basis alone, we've got to find a solution on this one. And as a board, this has also been our #1 priority with management to say we have to make it work. We cannot come again next year and still talk about challenges and problems. We need to come and say we've done it. And I encourage those employers who are willing to assist us to make it happen on both the bursaries and people living with disability. Let's make it happen. We are all leaders in this room, in our own ways, and we must take ownership of these things and make it happen. As the CEO has also said, the implementation happens in the workplace. So let's come and have that best practice and share it and make sure we actually make these things happen. But thank you very much. I think I don't want to be standing in between you and the dinner, so let's complete the business of the day, where we have heard the reports that have been presented. And what is nice, by the way, we are not approving these reports today, they've already been approved. Okay, so we are just noting. There's a difference, so you know when you note something, you are very safe. Because even if it changes, you can say, I only noted, that's all. You are not approving anything, so I hope I will be getting a quick assistance. The first report that was presented was the chairperson's report. Can I then get a mover and a seconder, so to note the chairperson's report? Just need to mention your name and the organization that you're coming from, and then it will be recorded. This is just an official thing so that people know that we were not presenting to empty seats. Okay, we were presenting to people who were listening to us. Okay, chairperson's report. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Mover first. There it is. Your name, ma'am?
Shari van der Merwe, GP Retail Operations.
Thank you very much. Seconder?
Grant Joosten from Batupile, Sales and Merchandising, I second that.
Thank you very much, sir. The second report was the, just get this right, that means, is the, yes, there's the CEO's report, 2022-2023. Can I get a mover and a seconder?
Good evening, my name is Ankie Kemp and I'm representing Edutel.
Thank you, Anki. Seconder?
Pumla Mota from Ehlanzeni TVET College.
Thank you, Pumla. The third report was the audited annual financial statements by the CFO. So we note the unqualified audit report and the whole report that was delivered. Mover and a seconder.
Tembi Ruda from NUMSA.
Thank you, Tembi. Seconder.
Hilma Geest. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sipo Mutsile from Pehule Trading Enterprise.
Thank you, Sipo. Then the last report was the 5-year strategic plan and the annual performance plan for 2023-24, presented by the COO. A mover.
Gwena Mantume.
Okay. This must be a favorite
Everybody
report.
wants to move.
Okay, let's start with Ntombi moves and then.
No problem.
And then I'm trying to get the name here. It was here.
Gwena.
Gwena, yes, second. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the robust discussions as well. I think we've covered all the people online. So let me thank you once again for. Oh, there is something that the CEO needs to announce before I close the meeting. Apologies for that. It came just before we started the meeting. It's actually a pleasant surprise. While we're waiting for that pleasant surprise, Martha, I suppose you are the one that's going to direct us with regards to the dinner. If you can also get ready for that one. Over to you, CEO.
Chairperson, I've been requested that South African Council for Graduates would like to present something. Thank you, Chair.
They must come here. We must talk about this award we got at business. What was it?
Okay.
What was for innovation, right?
Yes. It's,
Good evening.
Evening.
All protocols observed. I'm Babalwa Jonas from the South African Council for Graduates, and we are here to present the Skills Development Award for W&RSETA. This award is presented. Thank you. I'm standing on behalf of Mr. Makubela, the CEO and founder, and the South African Council. The Skills Development Award is for the Skills Awareness Category 2023, which is awarded to W&RSETA, recognized as a beacon of hope and competence for promoting skills opportunities by hosting and funding a national skills conference in 2023, thereby fulfilling the mandate of the National Development Plan.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. I think we need to pause. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. I think the CEO must also talk to this one. We also got another surprise award. Was it last week? CEO, please brief the AGM about that award.
So last week on Friday, there was a presidential SMME and cooperative awards hosted by the Department of Small Business Development, and in that so it's a presidential award, and the president was there, and the aim of the awards was just to present various categories of the SMMEs in South Africa for various categories, and then to our surprise, then W&RSETA was then awarded a discretionary minister's award for business supporting, is it business solutions? I can't remember the name. Yeah, but it's for business solutions. Thank you. For small business solutions.
And innovations.
And innovation. So that's the award that the Seta received on that particular evening.
Thank you. I think it just shows that we are committed to making a difference in the lives of people. And we appreciate all the awards, including this one which is got today. Please tell people to come and recognize us more, because we are doing quite a lot of good work. On that note, thank you very much. This is now the end of the business of the day. And please, it's very African that when you've been invited at my home, you cannot live without having something to eat. So be Africans. So there is a special announcement that will be made by Martha. And from me, thank you very much.
Good evening, stakeholders. A very special announcement indeed. Food is very important, Chair. So as the chairperson has said, we would like to please invite you for a light dinner, if I can call it that. As you exit the room, it will be on your right-hand side. So please help us not to incur any fruitless expenditure, and please have something to eat before you hit the road. Thank you very much.